Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. Back with another Big Ten team preview here. We've got the Purdue Boilermakers, who reloaded this offseason, kind of went out and got kind of what they needed. Right, we got couple guys out in the portal in Oscar Clough and Murphy from North Florida. But before we do dive in, if you have been enjoying our content, please go ahead and like and subscribe. But diving in now, looking at the Purdue offense first here, Cody, what strengths do you see here? Obviously, they've got consensus favorite to win National Player of the Year in Braden Smith, who's probably the best passer in the country for my money anyway. 44% assist rate last year, 37% for his career. He's a true orchestrator of the offense. So obviously that has to be the main strength, is his ability to just control the tempo.
Yeah, I mean, I think their strength is pretty much everything. I don't really think they do anything all that poorly on the offensive side. I mean, my top note here is just they cover all the bases, which I think it kind of explains it perfectly. And I think they now like have a super well-rounded offense because the front court is now super well-rounded. It's back to being a truly dominant unit with bringing TKR back, but also the addition of Oscar Clough. I mean, this is going to be a high-level post offense that can control the glass as well. Coffin Wren was 11% on the offensive glass. Oscar Clough 17.2%. I don't know if we see that number in the Big Ten. He's playing in the Summit. There's some smaller front courts there, but he was ultimately able to dominate that league from a rebounding perspective. I mean, people have talked about the fact that these two don't space the floor very well, but I think they have enough skill to coexist as passers, and they can both operate in short roll, particularly TKR. He's one of the best short roll creators in the entire country. And, you can put Clough, in the dunker spot. He's not going to do a ton of above the rim stuff, but, I think he has enough skill to finish around the rim against pretty much everyone. So those two can coexist just fine. I'm not really worried about that at all. But the guard group, I mean, even outside of Braden Smith, is elite as well. And, he has elite shooting by his side, and Fletcher Lawyer, CJ Cox, and Omar Meyer. Not really sure what Meyer's role is going to look like, but he is a super talented shooter, on the move, can do it a little bit off the bounce as well. Like, he's not going to be doing much creating. Braden Smith is going to have the ball in his hands. It's going to be a lot of, pick and roll and post action with this team. And, they create the gravity for these shooters to knock it down. And I think Meyer's going to fit in just fine in that regard. So ultimately, I just don't think they do anything poorly. I just think it gives them the highest floor in the country on the offensive end. I'm not sure they have the highest upside. I'm willing to say like maybe a team like UConn has the most upside on the offensive side, just because of more perimeter dynamism. But Smith is obviously the best point guard in the country. But outside of that, it's not like beautiful from like a creation standpoint. But ultimately, this offense is, at the very least, like, I would be shocked if this team finished outside the top 3 in adjusted offense nationally.
Yeah, and I mean that's why they are number 1 on Torvik in adjusted offensive efficiency, right? They're going to be led by the best point guard in the country, like you said, and who many think, and I'd consider myself right there and as the best player in the country for this season. One of for sure. I guess like the shooting around him now, and also Trey Coffin Wren, as good as he was last year, adding Clough, there's just so much there. That this offense just, to me, it just doesn't really have a ton of weaknesses, right? To me, there's really just one that, like, I don't even consider like a major weakness, but we saw it pop up at times last year, is their ball security. We saw it, in certain matchups, particularly like if anyone remembers the game against Penn State, which if you're a Purdue fan, I'm guessing you do. That game finished at 81-70, but like that game wasn't that close. And Purdue turned it over 24 times in that game. It was quite ugly. The pressure of Penn State really got to them, and like Braden Smith, 44% assist rate, as I said. He does have a career 20.3% turnover rate. Granted, his usage, he's 27% usage rate last year. He's got the ball in his hands a lot, but that would really be the main concern I guess I have, is ball security in certain matchups. But like it's not a crazy concern because it's hard not to trust Braden Smith, right? He's a senior leader that's always kind of orchestrated the offense so well. But we did see it at times last year where they struggled to take care of the basketball because like Lawyer isn't fantastic. Like he kind of like, I would consider him like risk averse as a ball handler, right? Like he doesn't really put himself in a lot of situations to face a lot of pressure. Braden Smith carries a lot of the load of that. Like CJ Cox, he's going to be more off the ball. He's not really a creator. So like it's really dependent against those teams with pressure. It's highly dependent on Braden Smith, and a lot of pressure falls on him. So that would be my main concern with this offense.
For sure. That's the only small concern I had jotted down, but I actually do think they improve on this end because they are more guard heavy than they were a year ago. I mean, you had guys on the floor like Camden Heide and Miles Colvin who really didn't provide a ton of value, or they were more negative ball handlers for perimeter options. But you have a more guard heavy rotation now with like more CJ Cox minutes. I think he's definitely going to play more than 18.6 minutes per game, and he's a good handler. Like he's a very poised handler. Like you said, he's not going to do a lot for you from a creation standpoint. But then this is a spot that Omer Meyer is going to be really good too. He can, if Smith is off the floor for any amount of time, like, he picks up 2 or 3 fouls, like makes a few boneheaded mistakes, like Omer Meyer can come in and actually create some offense for this team in the pick and roll, in the handoff game. I think he can. We'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to happen early in the season. Like Matt Painter's probably not going to trust him a ton to create right away for this offense, but I do think it's something that, is in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, no, I think so. Omer Meyer, I think obviously freshman coming in, but I'm sure being in the same guard room as Braden Smith for an entire summer, leading in, you learn a lot, right? As much as successful as he's been. So shifting gears now to the defensive side of the ball. Last year, of course, we had question marks about Purdue's rim protection. They added Oscar Clough here to bolster the size in the front court. But what strengths do you see in this Purdue defense for this season?
Yeah, I mean, looking at last year's defense, like that was an anomaly, like what that group kind of turned into. They had to completely change their style due to like not having a rim protector. Like TKR was playing the 5, like he's not giving you any value as a rim protector, and they had to completely mask, that deficiency. They can get back to what they do, and I think it's going to give them a super high floor defense. Painter's going to be able to deploy his base drop coverage again with the extra rim presence. And it's not just Clough. I mean, you also have Daniel Jacobson, who I only saw one game of him last year. I think that's all everyone saw. He got hurt early in his second game. I was super impressed with what I saw from him in that one game. I think he had 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 25 minutes in the only game that we truly saw him last year. And he flashed. He's 7'4", I believe. Like, is like a competent mover in space, like good functional athlete. Like I don't know if it's going to be a true like split of minutes with him and Clough, but I think he can come in and be like a, the true rim protector that Clough probably isn't for 10 to 15 minutes a game. And, I just think overall Painter getting back to his style, they're going to be able to control the glass and the paint. You can filter opponents into the mid range, and you can cut off more catch and shoot 3 opportunities. This team gave up so many unguarded catch and shoot 3s last season, and they got away with it for a long time. And they went on like a pretty lucky stretch from a defensive standpoint. But this year they're going to be able to get back to what they do. And I'm not like overly excited about the perimeter defense, but I think the stable rim protection and valuing transition defense and just getting back to what you do is going to be really important here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word there that you used that's very true is stabling, right? They have rim protection at a competent level now. But like you said, the guard group, a little bit more of a question, right? I jotted down a couple of concerns on this end of the floor. Um, One being, they don't really force a ton of turnovers, right? Just stylistically, right? Like Braden Smith has like a 3.5% steal rate, but other than that, like he makes some plays, but the group as a whole doesn't force many turnovers. Last year, 214th, I think, in turnovers per game forced. Um, so not a staggering number there. And then the other concern I have is, you mentioned like they now have more of a guard rotation, right? But they're all kind of in that like 6 foot to 6'3" or 6'4", right? So I worry a little bit about the positional size. There's not really any true wing defenders, right? They're going to come across teams that have 6'7", 6'8", especially when they get to, the national level, when they get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight and the Final Four. If they get that far, they're going to face teams that have guys on the wing like AJ DeBanza or Darren Peterson, and you're gonna face much bigger guys. That is a concern for me, because I feel they've got a bunch of guards and then they've got their bigs, but there's really nothing in between.
Yeah, that's like was at the top of my list. And my main concern, I explained it as like adaptability. I think they're going to be very like handcuffed into what they can do. And I don't think Painter was really planning on doing anything different on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, I mean, they're not, these guards aren't all that switchable. And I am worried about the point of attack defense. Like, there's not a, I mean, there are a few defenders on this roster. Like, I think Braden Smith and CJ Cox are very good defenders, but they're only going to guard ones and twos. And then you look at it, it's like, who is Fletcher Lawyer going to guard? And then who's Jakari Harris going to guard? And Meyer's going to play a lot at the three. He's a 6'4" small forward. Like, I don't love that. And there's also not really a guy that they can throw in there at the four and, be able to guard a, perimeter oriented power forward. It's going to be up to TKR here. And I am pretty worried about him in particular as a point of attack defender, as a guy who's going to be spending a lot of time at the four trying to defend in space. And yeah, it's just the point of attack defense is an issue in general, but I have a stat from 2023-24 when he was playing with Zach Edey. This is less minutes, but he was playing the four in these situations. When these two were together on the floor, Purdue was in the 66th percentile in defensive rating, which, seems like a fine number. Like, it's a rock solid number. Like, when you have Zach Edey at the five, I think I would expect a little bit more there. But when TKR came off the floor and it was just Edey on the floor, Purdue was in the 90th percentile as a defense. And like, obviously, and now you're in a situation where TKR doesn't have Edey to really bail him out as a rim protector. It's going to be a lot of Oscar Clough. He's more of a below the rim big. He's not a guy that's going to be able to handle like all of the responsibility as a rim protector. You can throw Jacobson in there and they'll be fine. But ultimately, like, how much better the defense got when TKR was off the floor is a bit staggering. And guess what? Like, TKR is not coming off the floor, and TKR is also not playing the five this year. He's playing the four. So I'm pretty worried about that regard. Obviously, we mentioned it, like, this team still has a high floor. They're going to be much better on the defensive glass after finishing 176 nationally last season. I think this is probably one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the country, and they're going to do a lot better things analytically. Like, opposing teams' shot diets are going to be rather poor. It's going to be very mid-range heavy, but if TKR can't handle, any sort of perimeter-oriented four, like, there is a major concern, and the fact that he doesn't protect the rim with it is is another concern. So I think it's a high floor. It's a higher floor defense than last season. They finished 53rd in defense last year. I would be surprised if they finished worse than that. But I don't see this defense getting so much better to where they get into the top 15.
Yeah, they will. Like, one thing you mentioned that I wanted to mention about strengths on the defensive glass, I think they will be pretty good, right? I mean, assuming Jacobson is going to stay healthy, right? He was, in his one game in like a few minutes, he had a 30% defensive rebound rate, and Clough's right there too at like 28%. So, a couple guys now in the front court that can both rebound the ball, take some pressure off of TKR. That should certainly help this team out a lot. But yeah, it's an interesting stat you bring up about Kaufman Wren, because like he isn't coming off the floor, right? He's too important to this team. So there's no way around that. So yeah, we'll see. But looking at team MVP here, pretty obvious, Braden Smith, right? And then X Factor, who'd you go with here?
I went with the duo of Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson. I just think, rim protection is really the backbone of a Matt Painter defense. And we don't know if Clough is going to be like a certain like high level rim protector for a Big Ten team. And we haven't seen Daniel Jacobson for more than one game, which I was impressed for the one game, but is he going to be able to handle physicality in the Big Ten night in and night out? I think he's gained some weight over the offseason, which is great for him because he was thin as a rail last season. But I mean, ultimately he still brought value. But I think if these two guys can, protect the rim at like a top 5 level in the Big Ten, I think this defense is going to be just fine. And like some of these concerns that we have with the point of attack defense are kind of just going to go off to the wayside because they're so good in so many other areas.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a fair X factor. I went a different direction. I went to the guard group actually, and I went with CJ Cox. I think he's going to have a much bigger role this year. Right, we saw him play less than half a game last year. He shoots it at a really high level. I think he can help to relieve some pressure off of Braden Smith. Right, while he, like you mentioned, he's not a primary creator. But he can handle the basketball and help out against teams who are pressuring them, and he's going to be a very valuable guy in terms of shot making alongside of Braden Smith. So with my little concern about the turnover, ball security stuff, I think Cox can really help in that area. And then now with a bigger role on deck for him, I think his shot making is going to be really important to the Purdue offense. So that's why I went that direction. But ceiling and floor for this team, we talked about in our Michigan episode. Michigan, according to Torvik, they have them first. We don't necessarily agree, I don't think. But what do you see ceiling and floor for this Purdue team?
Yeah, for my money, Purdue is the best team in this league, and I think they can show that this season. Like they can win a Big Ten championship, and they can ultimately win a national title because of how good their offense is. I think they're a certain top 3 offense for the entire season. They have the highest floor in the country on this end, and I think the defense is going to be good enough to win a title at the end of the day. It's just a matter of some of those few small concerns that we have, maybe a little bit bigger than a small concern, but I do think they're going to ultimately be like away from disaster at least. And their floor, I think maybe they finish 4th in the league. I just think they're a little bit too good to slide down the board, potentially like a 4 or 5 seed. And, I think it's in the realm of possibility that they're out in the first weekend. They run into a tough matchup. They run into a very perimeter oriented team that can just kind of kill them off the bounce. I can see that's a way that they go out. So yeah, but ultimately they're gonna be just fine. They're a top 3 team in the country right now.
Yeah. I had similar thoughts. I had them first, of course, at their ceiling in the Big Ten, and probably a 1 seed in the tournament, and they can win it all. And then at their floor, I had them 3rd in the Big Ten. I think they're pretty safe in this league anyway. Like there's some pretty poor teams at the bottom that they'll handle, and they should be just fine staying in that top three. And then I guess, like you said, they could run into some issues potentially early in the tournament. But for my money, like they're going to at least make the second weekend. I would think I would be pretty surprised if they didn't make it to the Sweet 16 with just how good the offense is. Obviously, there are some concerns on the defensive end, but this offense is just so good. But shifting gears before we wrap things up, one bold prediction for the Purdue Boilermakers. What do you have here?
Yeah, I went with a Daniel Jacobson stat line here. I think he's going to end up being extremely important, particularly on the defensive end, because I do have my concerns about Clough being able to protect the rim for large amounts of time. I think Jacobson ends up playing 20 minutes a game. He averages, I'll go 10 points, 5.5 rebounds, and over 2 blocks a game. Also, I'll go 2.5 blocks per game. I think I'm pretty high on him as a breakout guy. I mean, in the one game I watched, I was extremely impressed. Hopefully this doesn't, make me look like an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, he had an impressive game, and then, obviously season cut short. So, no, I don't hate it. I mean, he's going to have to play, right? We talked about him and Clough are going to be playing alongside each other and probably going to like split minutes there. You would think. So, there's a lot of upside with him. I went personally with a Braden Smith stat. I said he's going to average a double-double. Obviously, like that may not seem like I mean, it's hard to do at the college level, right? Like he averaged 8.7 assists last year. So this would obviously be a big jump. The reason I went there is I think like there's a lot of shooting around him. He's got obviously TKR. He's got other bigs now. I think he has everything at his disposal. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe he averaged like a point less a game or something, and averaged like another full assist a game, and got to like 15 and 10 or something. So that's where I went with that one.
I guess I have a counterpoint to this. It would be, is there going to be more action run through the post now that Clough's in the mix, and is that going to take away from his assist number? I actually think it's in the realm of possibility that his assist rate and his assist per game actually can go down. I know he's looking for that the all-time assist record, and they have to go super deep into the tournament to get there. And he may be hunting those at times since he knows it's within distance. So that's probably a point in your favor. But I think there's enough like action run through the post that's actually going to take away from his assist numbers. So maybe that's my second bold prediction. We can kind of go head to head here.
Yeah.
I'll say he averages under 8 assists.
All right. Well, how about we go the other way? I say he averages at least 10. You think he averages 7.4 or less. So it's the 1.3 each way.
I mean, I'll take it for the sake of for the recording here let's see what, yeah, I like it.
All right. All right. We'll wrap things up with the Boilermakers here, and we'll see you next time on the Mainly Hoops podcast.